So we got WCU on the blue side and TDS United on the red side.
Yeah, welcome here. We are Style Esports for season 14. It's going to be the game tonight is going to be TDS United versus WCU Rams. It's going to be a very interesting team. Both teams have definitely shown to be very aggressive teams. We do have, unfortunately, one substitute for the team of TDS with Fermenting Dregs taking the place as the support for tonight. But hopefully it won't hold them back. Hopefully it shouldn't matter too much, and we're gonna have a great game ahead of us right now.
Yeah, hopefully these teams are gonna have some fun in InigoMontoya. I think that we should be in for an exciting one. Both of these teams play pretty aggressive styles. I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of kills going on the map, and when you've got some silver bronze level activity going on, it's always fun to just play the game the most natural style that comes. We'll see how the junglers want to go about that. Whenever you got someone named Nidalee in the game, you have to wonder if the Nidalee ban is important. And as we're into the draft, we can see that is an important ban that WCU are respecting.
Already some quick bans from both sides. WCU taking out Diana and Nidalee, two junglers that the TDS side has really shown a lot of games on. We have Malachi Mordekaiser and Varus getting out from TDS side, and Volibear being the first pick for the side of WCU Rams here. It's going to be interesting. We've seen a little bit of games from the side of the jungler here. A little bit of the demonic tanks going on, and Karma going for the side of TDS.
DDS
Ooh,
with the meta style bands. The Volibear first pick is interesting to me because that isn't exactly the type of jungler that I think of at the top of the list right now. But Volibear pretty good at ganking, can skirmish as well in the early levels, so potentially going to be able to fight in some 2v2, 3v3 style situations, but the Viego going to be a very daunting opponent if they end up meeting one on one.
especially with the amount of skill that TDS, that Nidalee has really shown on the side of Viego, having almost 225 games last split with it. He has a whole lot of games this split as well. Not as much as Nidalee, but still a whole lot. And then we have the Sivir Seraphine answering back for the side of WCU. Not too many games for the support here for Cry X Love. So it should be interesting seeing them on Seraphine. They had a few games of that, but the Sivir definitely, playing a little bit safer, make sure they're not pushing too hard. And TDS also answering with that one wombo combo of Ezreal Karma. That really a solid duo of playing safe while also having a whole lot of poke in that bot lane.
I really like picking Seraphine into a comp that has a lot of poke and assassination ideas. So with the Ezreal Karma, TDS looking to do a lot of poking out in the early laning phase, and then Viego wants to run straight into you and assassinate the first player and then start getting resets off of that. Seraphine does a very good job of denying that. Sivir is a pretty difficult champion to gank, so that's going to help them have a little bit of a safety net in the bot lane where they're just going to be scaling up and hoping to get to that late game where Sivir can start bouncing the ricochets back and forth and start finding some kills.
It's gonna be interesting to see what TDS ends up picking for this mid lane. Oh, maybe an Ashe, possibly? Not for mid
Yeah,
lane exactly. Maybe the Ezreal Ashe bot lane, Karma mid, which is definitely an interesting pick that we haven't seen so far from this mid laner, Deviate. Deviate's normally one of those players that, puts his team on his back, plays the Kiana, plays the Akali. Both champions have been banned so far. So it might be one of those flex picks where they're just moving it around, making sure that they get the best matchup for it. Uh, but that just leaves the top lane for TDS. Possibly another lane. Could be Karma top, but I do believe that's probably going to be the mid lane here.
well, with the Shen being locked in, I think Karma top could be a pretty good matchup. I think that Shen likes to be up against auto attack based champions, and Karma has not only a lot of poke, but is very good at punishing short-ranged champions with the tether. Going to be able
Yeah.
to root some of the Shen down, so that could be the idea here. But right now, it's very poke and assassinate for TDS. So I'm hoping to see another champion that can start getting into the back line, start doing some work. Maybe a little bit of a frontliner could be helpful. So something like a bruiser towards the top lane would make sense.
Yeah. WCU looking like they have a very strong engage composition here with the Volibear, Seraphine, Sivir at the speeds, Vex also getting those alt resets in. So it's gonna be interesting if they can get those kills, get those resets, and really take over with that team composition in those team fights. TDS definitely playing on the opposite side of that. Not really going for the team fights, like you said, just going for that poke, maybe an assassination at some point, but mainly just trying to poke out this Ashe, Ezreal Karma, have a Fiora in the split lane. So it's gonna be interesting with both of these teams choosing different compositions, but whoever can play their composition better and seeing who can pull it out in the end.
I think that these teams will be playing towards opposite sides of the map here. I think that for WCU, they want to funnel towards the bot side. By locking in that Shen, they give themselves an opportunity to set up some odd number fights, maybe get some 4-on-2 dives in the bot lane, potentially looking that direction. But on the other side, TDS picking up the Ezreal and Ashe, both having global ultimates, that means that they're going to have more pressure towards the mid and top lanes in the middle to later stages of the game. So there's a lot of cross map potential for both of these teams. I think that if we get into some team fights later on in the game, that's going to look pretty good for WCU, as they're going to have the true hyper carry marksman in the Sivir and the reset champion in the Vex. But TDS is going to have a lot of opportunity to look for picks, and if they can get picks, if they can get ahead, they're going to be very oppressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. It's gonna be a fun time seeing these lanes play out, especially as you said, just these dive compositions being able to happen with the Shen and the Volibear. Uh, so if you had to put your money on one of these teams, which one do you think is gonna pull it out?
Oh, that's a difficult task because I think that there's going to be a lot of kills early. So I think that if there are a lot of kills early, it's going to generally be favorable for TDS. I think that they particularly want to get their Fiora ahead, their Viego ahead. If they can do that, it's going to look good for them. I think that the comp is probably better drafted here by WCU, but it's really difficult to judge how this game is going to play out.
Yeah, it definitely will be. It all depends on this early game. If I had to put a little bit of faith, I'd put it on that Viego. The amount of skill that he's been able to show through last season, this season. I think the eyes are on him to make things happen for his team here, and seeing if he can pull it out. If not, I'm gonna have to go WC Rams if we don't see some kills going towards Viego early on, like you said. It's all about that early game here.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a lot of back and forth going on from these two teams. I'm excited about this matchup, one of our earlier best of threes of the season. Both of these teams looking to get a good step in the right direction with this matchup, and it should be a good one. So definitely want to be keeping up with all of the matches that we've got going on today.
Yeah. It's going to be a good game. We're going to come back in about 3.5, 4 minutes, just letting these teams get into their in-game timer while we do a little bit of catch up afterwards. But right now we have our WCU Rams on blue side with TDS United on red side. So don't go anywhere. and welcome to the game of WC Rams versus TDS United. So currently we have what seems just a little bit of a standard five set from both teams. No one looking for anything too spicy. And it looks like it's just going to be a little bit boring of a level one before the 1 minute or the 1.5 minute timer going.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see the junglers clearing towards opposite sides here. I'd like to see this start from the Volibear on the top side of the map. Go towards that bottom lane, try to get a gank there at level 4, level 5, and try to start the snowball rolling on the opposite side. I'd like to see the Viego come towards the top lane, try to get the Fiora ahead. I talked a little bit earlier about how I thought Karma would be a good matchup into Shen. I think Fiora's a little bit weaker of a matchup. I think that the damage from the lunge still goes through on the Shen dodge zone, but there's a lot of damage as well from Fiora that comes out from auto attacks. So Shen should be a pretty decent matchup there. Going to be all about the parry timing on the taunt. So if that goes through pretty effectively, could still be a good situation for NKB. But all around, I think that this early stages of the game going to be a lot of fighting back and forth between these two teams, and I got my eyes on the junglers to see where they're gonna gank.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there. You know, Volibear going towards that bot side. Definitely focusing towards this Sivir, this Vex trying to get ahead. And Viego definitely going for that Fiora and making sure that she has that ability to split push. I don't remember exactly, but I'm 90% sure that the damage from Fiora's lunges does not go through, but if she hits a vital, the heal does. So I think that's one of those weird interactions that happens.
All right,
But it
that's
looks like she's
useful.
getting. Yeah, we have a lot of trading going on in this bot lane. Yeah, Ashe getting pretty chunked out there. But it looks like that Care or Cry is definitely going to get it too. Pen is also feeling very low, having Flash heal away just to survive the poke from Ashe and Ezreal there. Onset really showing off that he does not care about this lane. He does not care about that Seraphine trying to push back all that damage.
That's the power of the double marksman lane. A little bit of an interesting situation here where Fermenting Dreg's taking the Spell Thieves instead of the Spectral Sickle. I think that most Ashe players, Ashe supports even, like to take the Spectral Sickle instead. But going to get a little bit more damage off on the ultimates with this type of build. So we'll see if that ends up making a difference. But that does mean that it's going to be reduced damage from the W on all of the spamming of those volleys.
Yeah, we have to look very closely. Volibear, they do have the ward in that tri-bush, so they know Volibear's coming, but Volibear is getting there just in time to make sure that they get that wave underneath the turret and making sure that they get that pushback and don't get completely poked out of lane. But on the other side, Viego not getting that luck for getting Shen's health there because Shen's just being pushed under turret consistently by that Fiora.
And now both junglers rotating towards mid. Got a little bit of
Mid
trade in
lanes
the top side.
look very interesting. Vex having a flash out here. Volibear still trying to go in, thinking that he does have the damage, and it looks like he'll at least get the flash out, but I'm not sure about the continued trade, and it does look he's gonna have to flash out here as well, living with just about 50 HP. Maybe, you know, a flash Q from Karma if she had it up, but it looks like it's just gonna be trades of flashes in this mid lane right now, and these junglers.
Everyone's bleeding Inigo, but no one's dying yet. First blood still yet to be taken down. Nearly ends up going on to Fermenting Dregs. But with both of these junglers playing a very active role, we've got a pretty even early stage of the game. Uh, Pretty much dead even. We're going to have the first Drake spawning here in just about 15 seconds. And once that gets up, I wonder if we'll have any fighting around it. I think that stacking Drakes going to be particularly useful for the side of TDS because with this split push Fiora, if you can force the opponent to react on the other side of the map, that can allow you to pick up a lot of resources on your own side.
Yeah, especially with this Mountain Drake, which would be very good for this bot lane, not allowing that Seraphine and the Sivir to get as much poke as they want out. So I think that'd be definitely very crucial for TDS to get. But on the other hand, it's definitely good for the side of WCU. WCU, as we were saying, like this bot lane, both sides just trying to poke each other out over and over, hitting these spells. So whoever gets this Mountain Drake is just going to have, a little bit of an easier time trying to deal with the other lane.
Getting
So
those
hopefully
extra
there's a lot of focus on it.
sure feels good to get those extra resistances. Going to be a little bit of help against potential ganks coming in as well. When you look at the Viego and Volibear, both of those love to dive towers, so having those extra resistances can help turn around a fight around those towers. Make sure that they don't get to reset and just lose the turret aggro completely. And now level 6 is starting to come through for the solo lanes here.
Yeah,
I think
we
that's
definitely have to
going
keep
to
an eye on that Shen's level 6 as well.
yeah, that's going to lead to a bunch more fights as with Gank coming down to the bot
Yeah.
lane.
Volibear getting behind. Shen's still not level 6, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter possibly. Oh, it does just enough with the heal and the exhaust coming out from Ezreal and Ashe here. Fermenting Dregs just getting away with their life. But same with Straw Hat, Volibear. Almost falling down there. Letting Viego actually be able to get some deep vision in that topside jungle here.
Quite an effective gank, though, able to force out a lot of summoner spells there. The flash, exhaust, and heal. In return for, I don't think there was any summoner spells used on the other side, so pretty good stuff from WCU. I think that their
Yeah.
bot lane also looks to be setting up a freeze here, and if that's the case, then they're going to be in a pretty good position for the near future.
Yeah, Viego's actually going to be able to get this blue buff for free here. Volibear ends up pathing bot lane, even though his jungle's coming back up on the top. So we'll see. It looks like he's going to be trying to for either gank or going for that Drake, but it looks like he's going to go for the gank instead. Oh, nope, the Drake it is.
A little bit difficult to do some of the counter jungling right now, but the way that it's working out has set up Nidalee at level 6. Gonna look to go in top.
Ooh, Shen's caught out just a little bit here, but getting the double taunt definitely does not hurt for living here. Ooh, taking a little bit of a damage, having to ult out here. The flash, or sorry, the that turret shot really catching him off guard, as well as the two empowered auto attacks. And a free Drake going to the side of Volibear.
And I think that the minions being right there was a big impact as well. Nidalee needed to get over them. The minion block kind of coming through. That's one of my least favorite things about the way League of Legends is right now. As we see the invade about to get punished for Straw Hat.
Yeah, it looks like he's definitely on the wrong side of the map. Flash still not up from that mid gank, and it looks like he's going to be falling to the side of Onset, given over to that ADC and making sure that they get ahead in this lane.
Ezreal feeling really good with the marksman changes, with the itemization, able to go for the Navori Quick Blade second. So Essence Reaver Navori, I believe, is the meta build for Ezreal now. We'll see how quickly that can be stacked up. Sheen already in the inventory, so we're going to be looking at seeing how quickly Onset can start to carry this game for TDS.
Yeah, and we're seeing that interaction from top lane as well. Like the Fiora lunges do actually end up blocking, or sorry, the Shen shield does end up blocking the damage from the lunge, but she still does get the procs. So, confirmed strategy there. But it
Now we're
does look
seeing
like ooh, Viego missing that snare and the ultimate coming out from Seraphine, the exhaust as well, but it does look like it's going to be enough damage on Fermenting. The flash out from Seraphine, but it doesn't matter because Sivir gets the last auto attack before she gets into the bush for Ashe. Damage coming out from Volibear here, trading out the Seraphine, and it looks like Nidalee is going to be going for the Sivir, but doesn't quite get it with the flash out. Help coming from Karma in the mid lane. It looks like everyone's going to be walking out for right now. We'll see if they're able to get Pen. Does not end up working as Shen uses the ultimate to save her life. And it looks like Ezreal has to flash out. And looks like a little bit of safety from both sides here. Ultimate summoners used for the safety of their teammates. A little bit more
what is
fighting, but
happening
not much
here.
coming out of it here.
How are these champions all surviving? It's been And now we're gonna get a teleport back to top lane, it looks like, from Paradoxical. So gonna survive there as well. Onset, the big benefactor once again, going with the 2-0-0 Ezreal now, looking to stack up even more damage on the reset. I think that if I check individual gold, it should be enough to get that first item completion now. Going to be very big. And the magical footwear coming in as well. So Essence Reaver on the board.
Yeah, 10.5 minute Essence Reaver above his opponent by just maybe 600 gold. That 600 gold is enough to make the difference in between mythic or not. So it should be interesting seeing how this myth, or sorry, not mythic, but this first item definitely comes out to make the difference in this lane. Seeing how the damage comes out and gives them just a little bit more of an edge with the poke damage or the poke game that they've been playing out.
TDS now 2,000 gold in the lead. They did bleed the first Drake because they were looking for players on the opposite side of the map, so Drake stacking could be an option here for WCU. Now roams from the supports towards the top side of the map, maybe looking to go for this Rift Herald. Both teams having the same idea at the same time.
Yeah, 3v3 coming out from mid, jungle, and supports from both sides, but it looks like WCU is not confident in that ability, so they're just going to back off and probably give over the Rift Herald onto the side of TDS. Nidalee really taking advantage of the amount of threat that he's holding in these skirmishes right now.
Yeah, going to be able to force them away. Picking up the Rift Herald here means a lot more gold into the coffers. I'm expecting Nidalee to try to take a lot of that for themselves. But with the way Onset is set up, if they can also get gold onto NKB, then
Ooh.
things are going to look good.
Ultimate. Ash ultimate coming down onto Straw Hat here. A whole lot of damage coming out from Nidalee. Just autos after autos, and it looks like it's just going to be enough for Volibear to flash out. But now it's Paradoxical trying to fight off this 2v1. The slows coming in, the stuns, the snares. And it looks like it's not going to be just enough damage. And the wave being pushed into Fly NKB's turret, it doesn't look like it's going to end up in a dive. Whole lot of damage coming out to Zandrak here. Karma just really showing off these snares, these Qs, hitting over and over, not missing a single one, and getting Zandrak down to maybe 100 health or so.
What I've liked that I'm seeing so far from both sides is that they know when to stop chasing. They know that they can get pretty close to a kill, but if they keep going, they're more than likely to end up dying as well. So the reason we're seeing 1 to 2 on the kill score isn't because these teams haven't been constantly fighting. It's because they've been constantly fighting and then leaving the fight with 100 of health left. And we're going to see some more fighting going on in both of the side lanes right now. Gank coming through from Nidalee.
Nearly not quite in range for that snare, but he is going to be putting down that Rift Herald, giving that gold over to Fiora, making sure that she can keep over that split comp that they're trying for us right now. 175 going to both champions, Nidalee and Fly NKB.
Going to be looking to take this first tower in the top lane. A second Drake picked up now by Straw Hat, doing a diligent job, knowing that their strong side is on the bot side, even though there's 2 kills on Onset. Pen still going to be one of the most effective members on the squad. A really good game for Marksman right now, but a lot of gold also in NKB's Fiora off of getting those 4 plates, looking to finish it off with the 5th one. Well, no plates left, but the last of the tower being taken out here pretty soon.
Yeah, and just in that last little skirmish that was happening, not too much happening, but Ash did have to burn her flash there with just the Sivir ultimate going down in return. So it will be a little bit of a key summoner to be down for these next few fights that come out, especially from the Ash with, no mobility. So that flash is definitely very important for her to have,
I'm
especially in these
expect
very close team fights.
Yeah, I'm expecting there to be more team fights and larger numbers team fights coming up in the near future with the third Drake spawning here pretty soon. It's going to be an Ocean Soul this game. That's pretty effective for either side, especially if they can get a Baron on top of it and start sieging with it.
Yeah, ooh, that Ashe ultimate almost hitting Xandrax here, but not quite on the mark. But we have to give a little bit of credit for this mid lane. A Deviate has been showing Xandrak what it's like to be able to farm, having a 20 CS lead up, or sorry, 30 CS lead up in that mid lane. Also getting a plate for himself as well, and just continuously poking out Xandrak to make sure that she's always under the pressure of these pokes, these Qs.
Picking up the
Ooh,
Radiant
looks like there
Virtue.
might be a Lova collapse on this bot lane, but not quite in time for Nidalee and Fermenting Dregs to reach.
The one item power spikes here are pretty huge for the side of TDS. That they've got there first because they've got about a 4,000 gold lead, but they also have champions that spike harder on their first item. Radiant Virtue on Karma is just really strong because you can use it all the time because Mantra has like a 30-second cooldown at most. And then you've got Blade of the Ruin King. Always, any champion that gets Blade of the Ruin King, that's a big power spike. Now we're looking at a potential dive coming through in the bot lane. We'll see if Onset can get even more fed.
Oh yeah, but they always forget that Sivir can just clear these waves with W, just making sure that they never get the full chance to fully dive. Ooh, but these summoners or these ultimates actually hitting Sivir, not quite enough, especially the Seraphine answering out, hitting Lily with that final call. And doesn't look like anything is going to be happening too much here. Encore making sure that, it cancels any plans that Lily might have had there.
Looks like they want to set up this dive once again.
Oh, it looks like the kill ends up, not quite, almost falling, and it will end up falling, but they will trade back Nidalee here. Oh, not quite. These speed ups from Karma making all of the difference here. Seraphine really Nidalee really living here with almost losing his life multiple times, but not quite enough. Just the constant shields and heals coming out from the Seraphine clone and the Karma, making sure that Nidalee gets out with his life.
Seraphine, a good body to pick up if you're trying to dive as a Viego, ends up finding a lot of value out of that shield. And once again, it's Onset picking up another kill, trying to accelerate even further on the itemization. We'll see what it ends up being here. I think that it looks like we're building towards a Kraken Slayer. Could be a pretty good choice against a Shen and a Volibear, but it'll take a little bit more time before we can see what it's going to be.
Yeah, and while that ended up happening, Shen having to use that Stand United for the bot lane. Fiora ends up answering that top lane, taking first turret and then second turret falling on mid lane here. So a lot of trading coming out from both sides. TDS winning in that bot side fight, but also winning in the top side now that Shen had to leave. So it's
TDS in a
just,
great spot.
yeah, it's a lot of trading coming back, but not quite in the objectives that WCU wants. Ooh, Fiora ghosting in, but doesn't look like she's going to be quite in range to really be able to get anyone before they get underneath the safety of their turret here.
Looks like it's going to be the 5-man group to take this third Drake of the game. This one going to go the direction of TDS, more in line with how the gold values have been lining up. The first 2 Drakes going over to WCU is great. That's going to buy them some time, but now they can't continue to fight for the Drakes because as soon as TDS with their 6,000 gold advantage decides that they want to contest them, well, it's going to be pretty difficult to fight them for it. And good work there by Kree making sure to pick up that eye. Don't just leave that one there. We'll see if that can accumulate a little gold. I'm a little bit surprised that we're not seeing objective bounties yet. Those could be coming up pretty soon, but the gold bounties on the carries is pretty large, so we'll see if they can start to pick those up.
Yeah, 550 gold bounty on that Ezreal. But it is the Ezreal, so he's extremely slippery to get to in the first place. So I'm not sure if that bounty is actually going to be able to fall anytime soon. So the next best thing is this Viego and Fiora. Also fairly slippery champions if they want to play towards these bounties. I think it's a very good idea to plant this Rift Herald top lane, just getting some more damage on these side lanes. Fiora actually getting the Encore out, but it does look like she might have to fall to the vitals here. looks like the Stand United will not be enough to save her life. And actually it makes this Vex have to flash out the Karma, the snare actually about to proc, but not quite before the flash shot's out.
Another really nice play coming through from TDS. They're showing that they know how to use this lead. They know how to grow it as well. Baron now on the map, so we'll see if they start to look towards that. 2 item spikes coming through now. Ardent Sensor for a deviate. It's just so brutal to play enchanters in a solo lane because they're able to get so much gold, and you don't need very much gold to get onto your item power spikes. So getting to a very early 2 item spike here, and we'll see if that's going to continue to snowball this lead.
Yeah, these dual support items just makes it so hard to actually be able to really get a whole lot done on the side of WCU, but Volibear actually ends up going in. Uh, they're having to flash out here, just making sure that they don't quite die to this Volibear. So like we've been saying, they have been winning these skirmishes, but they still have to live in a little bit of fear for these engages from Volibear. Because if they just get poked one time or snared one time, a whole lot of damage will come out from this Vex, from the Sivir, from this Seraphine, you know? It's just a lot to deal with if they ever get caught in these predicaments.
Playing it out pretty respectfully here is the side of TDS. They don't want to throw their gold bounties over. They don't want to give up their gold advantage, so they're making sure to play it safe, make sure that they don't die instead of trying to force an extra kill.
Yeah, some more pick potential is trying to come out from the side of TDS, but not quite getting there in time. But it looks like Volibear is hungry for it. Ash looks like she actually will fall to it. Shen getting the final proc there. Karma having to flash out, and it looks like that one is going to be a trade back to the side of WCU Rams.
They're going to be able to pick up one, just the enemy support, so not the biggest of differences coming through there. But definitely feels good to know that they're not completely out of the game. Still can pick up a pretty easy pick. We'll see if they're able to convert that into any towers or anything. But in the meantime, I think Onset was able to pick up the mid-tier one. That's 3 towers now. NKB might be in some trouble here.
Yeah, NKB not being in the best position here, having a ghost, but doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Ooh, the dashes, the dives, sorry, just dodging away from that enemy team. Now another fight coming in this bot lane. Karma looking for that damage, but it is a Shen, so Shen's just gonna heal on back with this Hearthstone, or sorry, this Heartsteel. And it looks like not too much is gonna be happening.
Yeah, gonna get some grass procs off as well. We talked about that potential lane matchup earlier on. Now it's finally coming through as the lane matchup later on in the game. I think that this is going to be pretty decent for both sides, just farming it up for the next little while. I think that it would be good to see the game finished off strong here by TDS with this big lead that they have, but they don't need to force a bunch of things and rush it. They don't scale poorly or anything like that. So they can just take their time, start to stack up these objectives, and take whatever that WCU is giving them so that they can continue and snowball this lead until they can get into the enemy base.
Second item coming out from the side of Viego. Sunder being that second item, definitely a big jump of damage into this Volibear and this Shen. So it's definitely gonna be hurting whenever this Ocean Drake now into play. These teams trying to huddle around, get their vision around. Looks like Nidalee might be in the wrong place at the wrong time. His team not quite being there for him. But it looks like he will be able to get out from the slows of Ashe and this Ezreal just taunting on the side, making sure that they do not go too quickly. The ultimate hitting this Vex here, making sure that she does not get any damage out before the fight happens. Oh, the auto coming out on the wrong champion, but doesn't matter. Viego now going into the Seraphine. Seraphine falling. Shen and Volibear trying to get onto this backside, but it's not quite enough damage, not enough to get out to the Ezreal Ashe. And it looks like they will just end up being the beefy meat. Ashe taking a whole lot of damage, and she will end up falling, getting a little too close to this Volibear Shen. But so with a Volibear falling over to the side of Viego. Shen with 0 HP and falls to these Ezreal shots coming out. The spell shield coming, but not enough to be able to save Penn's life. And that is a 5-for-1 ace onto the side of TDS. And it looks like TDS is actually going to be able to take both objectives here. Viego going for this Drake, while the side of Fiora, Ezreal, and Karma go for this Baron. And it looks like they actually might be able to grab both objectives. Seraphine possibly edging her side towards this Drake, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the right objective with the Smite on that side as well. Baron falling to the side of TDS, and Drake not far behind it.
Pretty good results here coming through for TDS. They were able to separate the fight into some smaller skirmishes, which bodes well for a team with Viego and Fiora. And it was Nidalee getting through to that first kill, and once the resets come through on Viego, you can see what the results look like in front of your eyes right in this game. Nidalee able to chase out Penn as well, make sure that there's not a lot of damage in the fight coming out of that Sivir. So all in all, a well-played fight by TDS. They're able to pick up their second Drake. They're able to pick up Baron, and we'll see how far they can push the Baron buff.
Yeah, it was definitely an excellent fight from TDS. That fermenting dregs, getting that Ash arrow right onto the target of Vex, making sure that she does not get the same concepts that Viego gets with these resets. So I think that made all the difference in that fight. Getting her out early, making sure that she was not able to actually be able to go in onto the side of Ash, onto the side of Ezreal. So that was definitely a strong fight from TDS, but there is still some strong potential from the side of WCU Rams, but unfortunately, Cry Love not quite falling yet. It looks like they will fight back, just as I was saying that massive bounty from Viego falling to the side of Volibear. Ash also falling, fermenting Dregs. Thought he had the pick, but looks like he was the pick instead. And
Good
two
guy,
going
blue
over to the
buff.
side of WCU Rams.
Blue buff taking the hit for Krylov, making sure that the CC chain cannot stand, and then the Stand United comes in just in the nick of time. Paradoxical able to save Krylov, and on the back end, the three-man encore comes through, and we can see now how there's an opportunity for WCU to fight back.
Ooh, it looks like there's a lot of damage coming out from a Deviate, but the side of Straw Hat scaring him off, making sure that Penn stays safe with his farming. So, as I was saying before, WC Rams may have lost that fight, but they are showing that they can still keep on here. Volibear flashing in. Karma also doing the same, trying to flash out, and looks like it's just going to be flash for flash. Jungler for mid laner.
It's kind of nasty how much damage a Deviate is doing with the build that they have. I mean, Radiant Virtue and Ardent Sensor, you shouldn't just be able to press 3 buttons and do 70% of a health bar, but that seems to be the case right now. Coming through for a Deviate, playing this one out pretty well, and continuing to be a nuisance in the side of WCU.
Yeah, Paradoxical trying for that taunt, but does look like he is taking the wrong fight. Karma and Ash really blowing out all their abilities here. Paradoxical trying to get out, trying to use these snares, but Ezreal meeting him on the other side, and that kill will be given over, making him even more fed, 5-0 on the side of Onset.
3 items complete now with that Cyrilda's Grudge. Now going to be looking to take that tier 2 top, and now all that's left is to take the base.
2-2 top. Volibear having an ultimate out of there because he was caught by the side of Nidalee and Fly NKB. Looks like they try for the return, but now, since they got nothing from that fight, they just lose their top inhib turret. Possibly the top inhib if they don't back up now. Looks like they're continuing for this fight. Nidalee really wanting this 1v3, and it looks like he will actually end up losing it, but not before Fly NKB comes back, returns 1 kill, gets the kill onto Volibear as well, and Xandrak also falling with the rest of his 2 teammates in that fight. So 1 for 3 onto the side of TDS, and possibly another inhib turret falling as well if they can keep these minions healthy.
They're going to be able to fall back after this and take their 3rd Drake of the game as well. Things are just falling all into line here for TDS. They're doing a great job. They're making sure that they know the right macro decisions. And Italy going in there knowing that it's going to be a 1v3 for the first 5 to 8 seconds, but has NKB coming, has onset coming, and they're able to clean up the fight even though the first kill doesn't go over and Italy ends up dying before the play can be resolved.
Yeah. And it looks like it might be a free Drake onto the side of TDS. 12,000 gold in the lead at 30 minutes. But as we've been seeing, WCU does have some fight in them back. If they get the picks onto this Ezreal, onto this Viego early on, it could mean disaster for the side of TDS. But doesn't look like WCU is going to be contesting this Ocean Drake, making
I
it
wanted
Ocean Soul for this next one if they do not get that lead a little bit closer to theirs.
I think it's important to note the build path coming through here for Pre-Love. Going that Leandries means that there's a lot more wave clear. Anticipating that this game is going to have to be a waiting game. Going to try to avoid dying, let the waves be cleared. But
Ooh,
Straw
a
Hat,
lot of damage coming out to Straw Hat here. Fly NKB hitting these procs, trying to shield it away. You stand united coming out to save Straw Hat. And it looks like that's just going to be,
flank.
yeah, 2 ultimates down to try and save their life. But yeah, like you're saying, this flank coming out, the 4v5 in this top lane, a Deviate really giving them help, making sure that they can't just recall back. But it doesn't look like the side of TDS is going to commit for the play. So it looks like they're just committing for this Baron, scaring them off and say, hey, this is our land right now. Get out.
A snap call there to make sure that they're able to go straight from getting the damage down with the flank, with the karma, to going straight to the objective. Once the poke is all there, there's no way that the WCU will be able to contest. And that means that they're going to get engaged upon here, and that's a big arrow.
Yeah, that arrow hitting Xandrak, just like the last fight that they won. Just Xandrak falling out early on. And it's just spelling disaster right now for the side of WCU Rams. There is a chance that they can make this back, but with these picks coming out from the amazing arrows from Fermenting Dregs, it just makes it harder and harder for every single fight to be in their favor.
I expect this to be the final push. There's already minions onto the Nexus towers. They're looking to crack a second inhib here. They're looking on the flank. NKB.
Yeah, NKB trying to look on this flank here. Deviate taking a lot of turret shots, but NKB trying to find the side, finding the life of Straw Hat, trying to find some more, but falls to the side of Paradoxical. That Heartsteel really doing a whole lot of damage. And to Deviate taking up some more turret shots, making sure that his team stays healthy, but doesn't look like he's going to realize he's falling with all of that health going down. And that might actually be the saving grace for the side of WCU Rams. Make sure that their base does not fall just yet. Sivir being able to clear out these waves, and it ends up saving that base.
They're able to land the counterpunch, and it's enough to stop the game from ending immediately, but will it be enough for them to start the road to the comeback? They need to find a lot of wave clear in their sights to be able to do so, and they can't really afford to lose any fights for the rest of the game, otherwise they just get ended on immediately.
Yeah, that top inhib still being down for right now. The mid one coming back up. But bot turret also looking very low. This next Drake not being too far off here. Maybe a min half or two. But it's definitely not a very good time for the side of WCU. But they do get a little bit of a break, being able to farm out these waves, making sure that TDS is not able to be able to farm back these massive waves here. So keeping those waves onto the side of WCU Rams, just denying as much gold as they can, even though these full bullets are now coming out.
I think that they could get a ward pretty deep in. If they do, then they could look to double TP and just go straight for the Nexus. The inhib just respawned on the top lane, so they can't go for the play without going through the inhib first. But if they can break an inhib and utilize that double teleport, then they can threaten to just backdoor whenever they're going to take an objective. And in just about a minute, there's going to be maybe the most impactful objective on the map thus far this game.
Yeah, it seems like the side of WC Rams is keenly aware of that fact, just trying to make sure that these turrets don't fall in case that they need them to stay up, in case they need these inhibs to be able to take out or take in a little bit more time for these backdoors. So they're defending their base with all 5 members, not quite pushing out anymore, not past maybe the first or the first camps.
30 seconds on the next Drake. Vision being choked out here by TDS, trying to make sure that they have the drop on WCU. Going to be a good sweep coming through here, trying to find an avenue in through the bottom lane. Got a flank here from Paradoxical. Potentially going to be able to look for the Stand United as well. There's True Shot Barrage already down.
Yeah, True Star Barrage hitting onto the Volibear, so not quite the member that they want, but it still is a little bit of damage coming onto Straw Hat here. The engage coming out. Karma trying to hit that snare, but not quite, with the snare being returned from the side of Cry Love. Fly NKB and Nidalee just making sure they throw themselves at the side of WCU Rams. And not quite much happening here just yet. Stand United still being on the side of Shen here. So in case anything does go bad, he can just back up, maybe clear some minions, and then be able to use that Stand United back into the fight. Drake coming
NKP
to the
going on
side,
flank.
but it looks like a Deviate taking a whole lot of damage here, but not quite enough. Nidalee taking out Cry Love and also taking out Pen, possibly. A Deviate living with the skin of his teeth. Zandrak not quite enough damage. Straw Hat also falling. Paradoxical being the last member onto the side of WC Rams, but not quite for long. A triple kill for the side of Onset and the ace coming out from the side of TDS.
They're going to
Teleport's
teleport
coming
in
out.
and try to end. They've got the waves. It's going to be a deviate on towards the top side, looking to try to finish this one off. They've got 20 seconds before anyone responds, 30 seconds before anyone that has any consequential power. And I think this is going to do it for game number one. It's been a long time coming, but with this, it's going to be finally TDS claiming game number one, setting themselves off on the right foot for tonight's match.
Yeah, the first game going out to the side of TDS, a 1-0 lead, and a great start for the series that we have going on for tonight.
All
So,
right, well, going
a
into
great,
game number
I'm sorry?
Going into game number two, I'm looking to see a little bit of an adjustment in the draft potentially from WCU. I think that they had some good ideas coming out, but they're going to want to make sure that they have a more powerful, or maybe a better, I should say, matchup into some of these oppressive picks. They had the wave clear here. They tried to stall this one out, but they weren't able to do it. So hopefully they can get a little bit stronger early game in the next game.
Yeah, it definitely was a very interesting way to say, just like we were saying, that poking coming out from the Ezreal, that Ashe, just really making all the difference in that bot lane, making sure that they don't fall behind and are consistently taking out that, making sure that they're never at full health. So if you had to give a MVP for that game, who would you pick?
I think that I would have to pick Onset. Onset was just great front to back, but I think that the entirety of the TDS United was looking very good in that match. So I think that that could have just gone to just about anyone. Onset was just the first member to establish that presence.
Yeah, definitely have to agree here. Onset definitely pushing out his way, all that damage that he was pushing, just making sure that his Qs are hitting Volibear, being crushed out from those early items that Ezreal was able to get from those early leads. Had to give a little bit of credit to his support there. Dredge definitely hitting a lot of those Ashe Qs, or sorry, a lot of those Ashe arrows, and getting those crucial picks onto the Vex, making sure that she's never able to actually be able to fight in these early skirmishes that were happening on. But I do agree with you. Onset definitely gets the MVP for this game one.
All right.
So
Well, hopefully in game number two, we'll get just as exciting of a matchup. We had a lot of fighting going on in the early game. We had a lot of near death situations, but we had a little bit of a close matchup through the early stages because of that. Because no one was actually going down, they were narrowly escaping the death. We'll see if that holds up in game number two. If we end up getting a game number three, or if it's going to be TDS taking this series 2-0.
Yeah. Well, we will be right back, making sure that we set up for this game two going on. So don't go anywhere. TDS up 1-0 on their counterparts of WCU Rams. And we are back into our game two coming on. WC Rams versus TDS United. So both sides have ended up keeping onto the side that they were on before. WC Rams staying on blue and TDS United staying on red side. So do you think there should be any changes to this draft that they're going to be pushing out right now?
I think that if I was to look at one thing that could be changed up for WCU, I think that they would want to take away that Ash pick. I think that Ash lends the double marksman possibility in the bot lane to be at its highest level. But with the change in support, it could be difficult to tell if that's going to be a threat once again. We talked about the first game support for TDS being ADC main, so it makes sense to have that Ash support pick. Not sure what the champion pool is here for the best CC is Death, but that is who they're running with here in game number two.
And it looks like both sides are actually going to end up banning out the same three champions from game one, I believe. The side of WCU making sure that Nidalee does not get the champions that he is best on and making sure Deviate is not getting that Kiana. We'll have to see if they actually pick out that mid laner earlier, maybe giving him that Akali, making sure they can get those plays going on, or they're just going to be maybe flexing this Karma mid or bot again. Uh, we have to tell by the rest of the champions they pick. But Dr. Mundo coming out from the side of WCU, make sure that they stay on that tank top laner. This time, not quite Shen. There's gonna have to be a little bit more, a little bit more team oriented, not being able to have that Stand United on his side, and Graves on the side of TDS.
It'll be interesting to see if there's any flex potential with this Mundo as well. Could be looking at like a jungle Mundo potentially as well as the top Mundo. But Graves going to be the lock in here for TDS in the jungle. They're going to be looking to full clear this way. We'll see if they can continue to get Prio in all of their lanes. Last game, they really benefited from having Prio in all three lanes at pretty much all times. So that's obviously something that comes with having a lead, but they also just drafted in a way that lended itself to having those pushing lanes, and then they were able to convert on them in the end.
Yeah. And looks like Heimerdinger coming out from the side of WCU, making sure that the new support on the side of TDS, the best CC is death, is not getting his clear support winner of 33 games of Heimerdinger. So a little bit of a steal away from the side of TDS and pairing that with the Zeri. So definitely a nice little duo I see there. Both of those laners not quite wanting to full on engage, but the kite back is going to be quite instrumental for the side WCU, making sure that they're not having to deal with all that frontline damage and all that engage that Nidalee and uh, NKB were putting out in game one.
They'll be trying to fight for some of that lane pressure in the bottom lane with the Heimerdinger if it does indeed go into the support role. But Caitlyn also pretty good at fighting that direction. If they could pick up like a Zyra, then we could get a really interesting look in the bot lane. I'm not sure how that's going to end
Yeah,
up working out. But I think that Karma has been a pick that TDS have been utilizing very well in both of their drafts. Karma works really well with multiple marksmen, with multiple physical damage DPS type champions. You get that Radiant Virtue, you get that Ardent Sensor, and then they're able to deal a lot more damage and be more safe while doing it. So I think that having this Karma be the center of the draft is working really well for TDS so far today.
yeah. I would love to see the LCK double 80 carry coming out in the bot lane. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be that lucky. But some nice bans coming out from the side of TDS and WCU. TDS making sure that they're actually, yeah, they're afraid that Dr. Mundo being jungle and Lulu possibly being in that bot lane, maybe Heimerdinger flexing mid, but Akali being taken away from Deviant here. So still not being able to play those very hyper aggressive mid laners. But it looks like TDS is actually going to be fine with it, especially from game one that we've seen that a Deviant is not afraid to play Karma. And, even though he's playing that supportive item, like you were saying, that Radiant Virtue, that Ardent Sensor, he was still just dishing out as much damage as possible on those side lanes, making Pen just have to pay for, his transgressions for going against Deviant in that solo 1v1 that was happening top lane a few times.
I think he was
Kasante
the
also being
highest
banned out as
level.
well.
I think he was the highest level of any champion in the game. So that's kind of where some of the stats come from, just from leveling. Gonna be the Leona pick here. Has a hard time going into the Heimerdinger because of the turrets, but Leona's pretty good at roaming. So if the idea is to just let the Caitlyn just sit there, farm it up a little bit, get into some of the other lanes, maybe roam around on the invade with the jungle pick on the Graves, then potentially can find a lot of value despite not winning the lane matchup.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of possibly this TDS drafting into the Heimerdinger, especially since Heimerdinger is just going to be like it looks like they're going to be flexing the Zillion and the Heimerdinger, possibly going bot lane, possibly going mid. Both can do the role of each. But yeah, like we've been saying, like Leona is not the best support to be going into Heimerdinger, so it looks like she just will be forced to try and get those roams if it ends up being that Heimerdinger bot lane. Camille being picked up on the top lane. So TDS gets their pick of counter here. And it'll be interesting to see what they end up pulling out here.
They end up with a comp that has not a lot of engage. I mean, they're looking for the hook shot
Okay.
wall dive to set things up here, trying to get the Camille to go in, but it's going to be difficult for WCU to impose their will unless they can get to objectives first. But if they do have setup, it's very difficult to walk into them. They have a Heimerdinger that's going to be setting up some towers. They've got a Zillion that has a lot of zone control with the time bombs. They've got a Zeri who's just going to be able to blow up anyone that stands in range in the later stages of the game. So WCU once again looking at a pretty good scaling draft. TDS going to be looking to push the tempo, trying to get ahead early. They scale pretty decently as well, but not quite as strong, in my opinion, as WCU. and they have a lot of snowball potential on their champions. So I'm going to be looking to see what they do in the early game if they can replicate what they had in game number 1.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting comp coming out from the side of TDS. I'm not quite sure. I don't think that I'm gonna have to put my money on WCU this game. Just as you've been saying, a lot of that the front line lacking from the side of TDS, as well as like not that much engage, but they are counter engaging from this Leona, the Syndra, the Graves that has to be very short range to engage, be able to dish out that damage. So, like you've been saying, the only real engage being on the side of WCU with that hook coming out from Camille. But they also might have been picking this champion to make sure that, they're knocking down or they're locking down that one champion on TDS that ends up getting ahead, making sure that those Heimerdinger bombs hits them so Camille can lock it down, Heimerdinger can lock it down. And a whole lot of damage coming out as well.
So
So,
if it is Heimerdinger mid, then levels 1 through 5, Leona's actually pretty strong in lane. Going to have a lot of opportunity, particularly if they can hit level 2 first. They can look for an all-in, and Leona going to be a champion that was once amongst the very strongest of the supports, but has kind of fallen out of favor lately. I'm really excited to see how it kind of matches up into more of what we've been seeing lately as the main favored supports of the high level competitive play.
yeah, it's definitely gonna be very fun to watch how this plays out. Like you've been saying, Zillion definitely not being the best support against the Leona, those levels 1 through 5. But once that level 6 hits, Zillion is going to be able to get that chrono, or I'm sorry, I don't believe it's chrono break, but at least getting that chrono shift, sorry. Yeah, that chrono shift and making sure that Zeri possibly gets another chance to get those dives across the wall, giving her that second chance at life. So definitely a lot of lockdown potential coming out from the side of TDS, and it will make all the difference on who they choose to put all of that CC down on, and making sure that that's a champion that'll make or break the difference of those team fights.
Well, I
So
think that we've got a pretty good setup going into game number 2. Some similarities, but a little bit of some new ideas coming through as well. A good balance here in this second game draft. A lot of flex picks going on with the Karma getting sent top, with the Mundo getting sent jungle, Heimerdinger into the mid lane. A lot of different stuff coming through, and I'm excited to see if it's going to be TDS coming out on top or if WCU wants to give us a game 3.
yeah, well, we will be able to see after this spectator delay that we have to go through. So until that is over, we will be right back. TDS 1-0 on their counterpart WCU Rams. So don't go anywhere. All right, and we are back with WCU Rams versus TDS United. So, definitely a basic start we have from both teams right now. A little bit of a stack onto the bot side with Zillion and hanging out with the Heimerdinger. Sorry, Heimerdinger hanging out with the Zillion and Zeri there. But not quite. Actually, I'm getting these champions wrong altogether. So disregard me. I don't know what's happening anymore.
Amazing. I think that we're going to have a lot quieter of an early game this time because Straw Hat's playing the Mundo, Nidalee's playing the Graves. Both of those champions just want a full clear. They want to get to their items, they want to get to their level 6s, they want to be in a position to carry their teams. And it's going to be a little bit harder to find ganks onto the mid or top lanes for either side. Could be some potential dive setups top lane for WCU later on. Bot lane still has some volatility to it, but it's going to be really interesting to see how the best CC is death plays out this Leona, because I think that there's a possibility that there's going to be some roams coming out, but there's not a lot of great places to roam too.
Yeah. And something that we did actually forget to mention is the Syndra ability to pick up these Heimerdinger turrets and just throw them wherever she wants. So definitely completely forgot about that interaction, giving Syndra just that extra edge once she gets that second ability going on. So
That is helpful, isn't it? To be able to a little bit manipulate what's going on. Obviously, Zandrak going to be able to put down a bunch of turrets, but the mid lane going to be a pretty boring matchup. I think going to be a situation where we want to see both of them scaling up. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep an eye on the splinters for a deviate. Once those get up pretty high, then they start to be impactful with the ability upgrades. And I think that that's just about the most excitement that we'll be able to have in the early stages of this game.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how many procs of grass Karma can pull out in this lane. Uh, really, probably like one of the most exciting things that's actually going to be happening pre 5 minutes. Yeah, like you've been saying, both junglers just getting their full clears going, and Leona's still trying for these E's going, but not quite in range, not quite able to get those going, especially since the double range bot laners, making it a lot harder to get those picks out.
First Drake of the game gonna be the Mountain Drake coming up in a minute 40. Let's see if either side goes towards that. The first two Drakes last game went to WCU before the stack came through. All of the Ocean Drakes going over to TDS. We'll see if this ends up being reflected once again. It's pushing bot and top right now for TDS. Obviously, the mid lane is going to be pushing for WCU pretty much this whole game because that's what Heimer does best. But now we gotta fight.
Oh yeah, oh Straw Hat being found at the wrong place at the wrong time. Not expecting Nilly to be there, neither the side of the best CC is death. And he ends up proving right to his name, with Straw Hat falling as the first victim of First Blood to the side of Nidalee.
Italy once again being the early carry to pick up some of these kills and can definitely snowball the lead off of it like we saw in last game. So already off to a good start.
Yeah. Again, we're seeing best CC is death, just trying to hit those swords into the enemy team, but not quite getting it. Ooh, Mundo stealing away that scuttle. And chasing down Nilly, trying to get this little extra damage going on. Syndra actually walking over. Straw Hat's going to have to be very careful. Actually ghosting for it, but he doesn't realize Nilly still has flash to be able to fight back, and it will end up being the kill. Solo to the side of Nidalee, the 1v1. Straw Hat thought he had the damage, but not quite, expecting the flash out for the reload.
And another kill on the Nidalee going to be even more devastating. Some ganks might end up getting set up now because with Nidalee as fed as they are now, it's going to be a lot easier to find lethal damage when you do go for a gank. So getting that small advantage could lead to a larger advantage later on.
Yeah, and We also had to keep in mind this top lane is not going to the side of Paradoxical. NKB just really showing that these grass procs, these grass autos, as well as these Qs, just consistent damage over and over, really hurting. And Paradoxical not quite being able to get these minions under the turret. Ooh, the hook actually being able to cancel and not quite enough damage, but definitely could have been very close. Forcing the recall and forcing a freeze onto the side of Fly NKB.
Nice work by NKV to start getting some more advantages in the top lane. Just like last game, doesn't take kills to make it happen. Just has
CC is
to
death.
get out.
Actually walking mid, but a deviate just doesn't have the mana to actually match it. So yeah, looks like it's gonna be just a little going, but all for naught.
Unfortunate situation there. Onset now gonna have to go through with the 1v2, trying to put down a little bit of damage, but can't win those trades. Gonna have to wait for the return of the best. CC is death. Maybe Nidalee gonna look that way as well. First Drake on the map now.
Yeah, it is warded. So the side of WCU will know that whenever they start taking it. So there is a sweeper on the side of Graves, but doesn't look like he quite knows. Oh, the pink ward will spot it out. So they will know just in case they end up trying to get that going. Looks like they actually are going to risk it anyway. Straw Hat not seemingly unaware, but looks like he's going to go for this Caitlyn instead. CC is death, actually helping out with the Drake instead. It looks like there's going to be a lot of slows going out onto Onset, but not enough damage to match the CC coming out. And
It's
it looks
very
like
different.
that first Drake is going to be able to fall to the side of TDS. Nidalee leaving at about 400 gold, or sorry, 400 health, and it will end up falling. So
No
first
smite.
Drake falling to the side of TDS.
Living dangerously there without the smite, but still able to lock it down. Good zoning by the best. CC is death. We'll see if there's going to be more of these Drakes stacked up in the future. But starting things off the right way in game number 2. Got about a 2k gold lead. First Drake going over as well. TDS picking up right where they left off.
Yeah. And now we're seeing a Deviate being able to take over this mid lane, just throwing those turrets wherever he wants. And now making all the difference. So Zandrak getting low in this lane, this 1v1, and not ever being able to get those turrets out. It looks like one will end up being his betrayal. First solo kill, or sorry, first kill in this mid lane, going over to the side of a Deviate, using the ultimate, and actually baits out the flash of Heimerdinger as well.
Fantastic play by a Deviate, trying to accelerate this advantage. We can see now that 40 splinters mark has been hit by a Deviate. Gonna have that second charge on the Q available. Now looking to set up the Rift Herald and maybe gonna find a play onto Straw Hat.
Yeah, CC is death, throwing out those Qs, making sure to bait it out, flashing over to make sure Straw Hat cannot use the Blast Cone out. The Ghost being out, but it looks like it won't be enough. The actual kill going to CC is death, but Paradoxical not looking far behind. CC's death actually going for the kill here, and it will be his betrayal. Paradoxical flashing out. Paradoxical trying to get out, but just gets met by Nidalee, falling as well to the side of TDS. 2-for-1 for their trade there.
This game is already going pretty sideways for WCU. They're down 3,000 gold now. The Rift Herald is in tow for Nidalee as well. Gonna try to hold on to that and use it to spring some more plates. Pretty much anywhere is good right now because you just want to keep funneling that gold into the graves.
Possibly a trade going back into the bot lane there, but not quite fast enough. It's been unfortunate to see that CC's death has been roaming a lot during this game and leaving Onset all by himself, but WCU not being able to trade out anything in return in the bot lane, even losing that 2v1 trading back. Taking out the ultimate from Onset, but Pen and Cry Love looking extremely low here.
Going to be difficult once again. They're going to be looking to their wave clear to let them scale up. But the siege once again is pretty intimidating coming out of TDS. They've got the Caitlyn, they've got the Syndra. We've seen what they can do.
Ooh, yeah, Krylov getting caught out by Leona, but the ultimate coming out, that Chrono Shift coming out from Zillion here. and ends up saving his life in the end, but just so much damage coming out. CC's death not missing anymore, making sure that he knows that, all right, okay, I figured out how you move, figured out how to hit these E's, throwing out, getting the slow, and just as I say that, not quite hitting the sword in. Getting a little bit kited out, but it seems like he's just going to be able to get away with his life.
Now that they've been able to burn the chrono shift, they can try to punish the lack thereof. But it hasn't worked out just so far. Good job defeating the dive here by the bot lane of WCU. We'll see if they can continue to farm up, try to stay just a little bit behind the pace. But right now, just
Ooh.
continually push coming down. Pain very low. We'll see if a gank can come bot from Nidalee.
Yeah, Penn having to actually back here. That flash from Onset being available. And it looks like Nilly is going to be taking that kill instead. Not quite. The flash coming out and the kill being given over to Onset as his final shot. Or sorry, the ace in the hole coming back up. And now 2 kills going over to the side of TDS.
And it's Rift Herald, and it's a bunch of plates bot, and it's going to be another Drake here pretty soon. The snowball keeps cascading even further along, as Nidalee may be in a little bit more trouble this time around.
Yeah, Nilly in a little bit of a pickle here, giving over that 550 gold bounty over to the side of Dr. Mundo. Straw Hat feeling very good after that one, and looking for Onset as well. He is not done. Has his backs up a Zandrak, but looks like Straw Hat's getting very close to death, and looks like he will fall. 3 turrets trying to trade back the damage onto Onset, but it looks like he will fall as well. Penn and Cry Love trying to answer back these 2 kills, but Syndra, the Deviate, making sure that they don't get that chance. The ultimate coming up from Penn, the speed ups from Cry Love, and they will have to get out with their lives, making sure that they are not able to trade back those 2 extremely low kills.
Playing on a knife's edge there, but able to pick up 2 more kills in the bottom lane. That's going to keep expanding this gold lead. Onset now 3-0-1 to complement Nidalee's 4-1-2 Graves. Going to be looking to continue those ways. Try to make this team go to quick 2-0 in this series. 6K gold lead. It just keeps stacking up.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for WCU Rams here. Second Drake going over to the side of TDS. Do you see a way for WCU to stay in this game, making sure that they're not falling too far behind in this early game? See a way for them to come back?
Fallen too far behind, but they can just try to chip away at it, look for one pick at a time, make sure that you bring odd numbers to the fights. Paradoxical is going to have to be a big part of it because the Camille setup is pretty much the only hard engage and pick that they have available to them. So they got to make sure that they're looking for that.
Oh, yeah, CC is death, flashing in, almost hitting that ultimate all the way, just getting the slow, but it looks like it's going to be enough damage in CC to be able to take out Zandrak and make sure he does not get a second chance to flash out.
Deviate able to drop 2 of the balls there and then puts down the ultimate. The unleashed power takes care of business. Zandrak falls once again, and a Deviate continues to be in the lead. As I'm checking the individual gold to see, it's 1500 mid, it's 2000 bot, it's over 2000 in the jungle as well. Every role just seems to be pretty favorable here for TDS, which makes a lot of sense, and they're going to look to take another tower with their lead.
That is not looking too bright for the side of WCU. The Rams just trying to stay in it, trying to make sure that they are controlling the amount of losses that they're taking, but these turrets are falling over and over to Caitlyn, just those headshots going onto the turrets. Maybe, and these bounty objectives now coming out as well.
We'll see if they're going to be able to continue taking all the objectives. The objective bounties could be worth a lot here, and they will be worth a lot if they get taken by WCU. But the way to prevent them from getting objective bounties is by taking all the objectives first.
Yeah, you know, the best way to keep it from happening is to take it yourself. These ultimates coming out, just extra damage. Not quite necessary for the kill, but just to make sure that they always stay low. Karma, Caitlyn, Syndra just throwing out these abilities that they have on spam
And they
and
have
pushing
some
down this mid turret.
in their kits. They have some sustain, but it's not consistent enough to deal with all of the damage that's coming out on the siege. We'll see if they're going to be able to survive now that they've brought 4 people towards the mid lane.
Yeah, a nice little stun coming out from the side of Cry Love. But, ooh, unfortunately, a massive headshot coming out from onset here. Ooh, and as you're saying, Paradoxical being the end to try and make sure this team stays in it, but Penn falling as well, Straw Hat falling too. CC's death, not expecting that extra damage coming from Straw Hat, so they at least trade back one. But Paradoxical just going in a little bit too early, thinking that he had the damage, he had the team, but he hasn't quite faced all 4 of them at once before, and he fell very quickly before that fight even started.
Great use of the locket there by the best CC is death, and the rest of the team are able to clean up the fight. They're able to go about 3 for 1 there and turn it into another few towers. They're going to be able to continue counter jungling as well, taking away all of the opportunities to come back into this game. And with the gold lead up around 11,000, we can see their confidence and their importance that they're putting on continuing to spring the gold lead even further ahead.
Yeah, it's not looking too bright. Yeah, I've already said, but it's just not looking the best for Rams right now. Uh, Best case scenario is they try and fight these, like you've been saying, try and fight these odd end battles, making sure that they have the numbers, making sure that they have the picks. This Camille definitely being very important whenever she is able to use that Hextech ultimatum and be able to lock down one player and make sure that they're not able to move out of a specific area. Haven't quite seen that ultimatum come out yet, so definitely looking for that to make the difference in some of these fights.
The difficulty
Ooh.
is that it's hard to pick anyone when they're always grouped, and they're looking for another play as a group here in the bot side river.
Yeah, Gray's looking very dangerous, trying to get those damage out, and it looks like it's going to be enough for at least some of the damage to come. Oh my gosh, Paradoxical end up falling as well. Zandrak looking like he's going to be next. Krylove already falling as well, making sure that that Chrono Shift does not make a difference. Penn being queued up, but not quite enough damage to kill him. Straw Hat looking like he's going to fall as well. A Deviate trading his life for the kill, but another turret falling to the side of TDS, and Drake looking like it's going to fall that way as well.
They got the 4 for 1 as well. The gold lead just keeps expanding as the game continues. It's up to 13,000. They're going to get to Soul Point, and it just feels like we're just waiting for Baron to spawn onto the map. That's the last thing that needs to be taken in order for TDS to close out the series.
Yeah, so far near 4 kills away from a perfect game. Taking every single objective, taking about 4 turrets at this point and losing none of their own. So those pesky 4 kills, or those pesky 4 deaths, keeping this from a perfect game. But it's just looking like an onslaught. TDS taking over this game, making sure that they are not going to give up this lead at any point. Make sure that even if one of them falls, they have 2 more to take their place as the carry of the fights.
Well, we've got about 1 more minute until Baron comes onto the map. We'll see if the teams are trying to fight so that they can get their cooldowns back up at the last second, or if they're just already holding them at this point. But both teams going to want to rotate up towards that. A Deviate able to avoid getting collapsed on there.
Yeah, Straw Hat not looking like the best position, but that Leona's gonna miss just one more time, making sure that Straw Hat gets out without any consequence to his positioning.
Able to escape once again. It's been a difficult night trying to lock anyone down for the side of WCU, but they're doing their best to try to wave clear, try to play to their advantages as much as they can.
Yeah. And NKB, as you're saying, having that little bit of sustain within their builds. NKB has built the Oblivion Orb to try and help with, any type of healing from Mundo, any type of sustain from the Camille, making sure that they don't have those healing capabilities. CC is dead, looking like he might get off a little bit more than he can chew, but actually ends up just being the bait for Straw Hat and Paradoxical to going a little bit too far, not being able to see over the wall and see the other three members of his teammates standing in wait for that fight. And it looks like Baron is going to ends up being the trade as well to the side of TDS.
Oopsies, they walked into auto attack range for onset. I think that was their biggest mistake there. Onset just giga fed on the Caitlyn. Same goes for Nidalee. They're working hard to continue finishing out this game. But for the meantime, they're enjoying a little bit of some kills going their way as well.
Yeah, the base not looking too hot for the Rams here. Each turret now finalizing the last outer turret falling. So now just these in-hit turrets standing to defend their base here. Which doesn't give them a whole lot of jungle pressure. So now even more falling to the side. Ooh,
More
fly
than
in
two.
KB looking towards this Zeri. Maybe trying for that 1v1, making sure that she can keep up that fighting ability.
Looks like the best CC is Death going to try to roam around here. Look to put some pressure in some different lanes. Trying to get the Baron up minions here in the mid lane. 2 minutes left on the Baron buff. I believe it's still on all 5 members. They're trying to get the waves in, trying to set themselves up to take some inhibs with it. The wave clear working out pretty well right now for WCU.
Yeah, WCU definitely showing that they can keep these waves healthy on their side and making sure. Oh, but and maybe it would keep the waves healthy, but not their own champions. Cry Love ends up falling, keeping that Chrono Shift, not even getting a chance to use it with the stun coming out from Syndra. And one falling, two more having to back in base with less than 50% HP, and this first inhib turret will end up falling. A cleanse being burned from Zeri from the stuns. The initial damage possibly coming out, but the cleanse keeping himself alive.
Waves
And
getting
it's
pushed
just
in all the way now. Gonna try to set up another rotation into the side lanes. NKB already working the bags on the bottom tower. Nidalee now gonna try to take the top one out. And they've got 4-man pushed on the bottom side. We'll see if they can end the game.
yeah, it looks like Nilly actually might be the bait, might end up falling for that, but so will the inhib on the bot lane. So two inhibs falling, a kill going over to the side of TDS for the trade back of Nidalee. A nice little bounty, but it might cost your base instead. DC's death ends up going in, but the Chrono Shift is used, so the kill would not mean anything anyways. Paradoxical falling as well as Xandrex falling in suit. Krylov trying to keep his ADC alive, not quite getting it, but these minions are burning him down. Almost enough damage, but not quite. But it may be a little bit too late for these shutdowns to be coming out as the turrets are falling for the Nexus. Ooh, Krylov falling as well. Pen also looks like he will lose his life. Onset keeping with 100 HP and the Nexus falling for the second time. TDS 2-0 against their opponents of WCU Rams.
What a strong performance in the early game, both times around for TDS. Doesn't matter who their support is, they're able to take huge advantage. Onset playing fantastically, as well as Nidalee and a Deviate and NKB. So really, it's just the whole team coming up with big performances. It starts in the jungle role with Nidalee, I think, but Onset doing a great job in game number 1 as well, setting up the plays and doing a good job with the positioning there in game number 2. So going to be a lot of effective players, and TDS looking pretty strong going into some future weeks of Style Esports.
Yeah, it was definitely a very strong showing from TDS United, making sure that that bot lane stays very healthy, that top lane. The top and mid taking turns, just making sure that they stay that karma, making sure they keep those shields coming, the heals, everything like that, and keeping that team ahead of the curve. So, if you had to give a MVP for this series, who would you pick?
For the whole series, I'll pick Nidalee. I think that was just strong carry performances in both games, able to set the tempo, and that's probably the person who's shot calling the most as well, given that they had some changes in support between the games. So I think that their macro was pretty impressive. And if it was Nidalee that was directing that while also carrying, then that's majorly impressive.
Yeah, definitely have to agree there. Nidley was very showing up, very consistent player in both games as well. Not necessarily being carried, not necessarily like falling off, but keeping his kills up, making sure that he is the difference maker in these fights. This Graves, this Viego, uh, really pushing the board and pushing those kills early on.
It was a rough series for WCU, but hopefully they'll be able to bounce back. They just got beat to the punch this time around. They got some rough early game matchups, and TDS was able to expand upon that to snowball into a victory. But if they can get into some later games, if they can find some bridges, some champions that can get them from the early game into the late game, then I think that they've got some potential.
Yeah, well, it will definitely be interesting to see how they improve during this season and how it goes on. But as of right now, TDS is 2-0 against their opponents, WCU Rams. So that is all we have for you tonight, and can't wait to see you all again. So, good night.